Page 99. White. I showed my math teacher the early excuse note. Then I headed upstairs to the gym. Marcus and most of the other guys were already outside of Casey's office. "Yo, college star, did you bring your long underwear today? I hear it can get really cold warming up the bench," snapped Axe. Everybody was laughing, so I put a smile on my face and sucked it up. "Are you just too important to practice with us now, White?" asked Big Andre. I started to answer, but Casey's door popped open and everybody turned back around. Casey looked us over to see who was there, and I dropped my head before his eyes found mine. He reminded us what train stop to get off at, and not to get into any fights with other kids on the way. "Eddie, what happened to you yesterday?" he asked out of nowhere. Everybody except for Marcus had their eyes drilled into me. "I had to be somewhere with my family," I said. I knew it sounded more like I had been to a funeral than a jail. Casey sent us out, and I was the first one to the staircase. Down 4 flights, footsteps were building up behind me. They were right on my tail as I hit the first floor. Connolly was busy on the phone. He put up a flabby arm to stop me. I pulled up short, and the team piled up at my back. Connolly slammed the receiver down, took a deep breath, and squeezed his fat ass into a chair. And he counted us and scribbled the numbers in his books. "Tell you boys to shoot the lights this afternoon, but that makes me an accessory," he laughed. "Har, har, har," X barked at him like a seal. "That's so funny!" Everyone bolted for the front door before Connolly had a chance to jerk us around. On the front steps, everybody started barking because they knew that Connolly could still hear us from inside. I joined in too. It felt great. Then somebody oinked like a pig to really screw with Connolly's head, and everybody else started too. The wind had died down, and in the sun it was almost warm. Marcus stepped to the front of the pack, oinking louder than anybody. He walked right past the bus stop and started for the train on Broadway. The team just followed along, laughing and making different animal noises like it was feeding time at the Bronx Zoo. We started out on a platform 50 feet above the street. The trains came rolling in, and we took over one end of a car. Kids were starting to jaw at me again for missing practice, but the sound of the train muffled most of it. At an underground station, we transferred over to the F train. The subway has a different feel to it when it's below ground. Instead of blue sky and white clouds, there's nothing but black outside the window. The whole mood changes, and you can see that people are more uptight. At the other end of the car, a man started screaming at a woman and her baby. At first I thought they were together and just having a fight. Then the man really went off on her, and you could tell that he was crazy. "Stupid niggers, you're all the same. Go back to the fucking jungle," he screamed at the woman, and started over in our direction. The man had on a short black coat and brown wool cap. He was tall and staggering more than he was walking. "Hitler did go far enough, Rabbi," he yelled at some guy with glasses and a beard wearing a yarmulke. "He should have killed all the niggers and your Jewish mother, too." Thought the guy was going to get up and sock him for sure, talking about his mother that way. But he just kept on reading and never even looked up from his book. The lunatic was white. But the dirt was so thick on his face that it was almost hard to tell. He lost his balance and crashed face first up against the doors. That's when the whole team wanted to puke and turned their heads away. The back of his pants were brown where the shit stains had come through. Kids were holding their noses and yelling at him to leave. He didn't want any part of us, so he started on some white girl who was sitting alone. "One day niggers are gonna fuck you too," he told her, leaning up against the door. "They're going to fuck you good and you'll love it." I looked over at Marcus and he was looking right back at me. Other kids were howling, but not us. Maybe a month ago we'd have been laughing too. I kept thinking about being locked up with a nut job like that and having to listen to his act 24/7. Besides that, he could have been my sister, sitting there by himself. The two halves of the door opened at the next train station, and somebody pushed the man out of the train. Everybody clapped for the guy who did it, but just as the doors closed, that loony stepped back inside. He started up again with the girl, telling her that sooner or later some black guy was going to ramrod her. An old lady got up and tried to move into the next car, but the door was locked. When the train finally stopped again, the man wandered out onto the platform. Kids had their faces pressed up against the window, watching him. He was already hassling the people outside. After the doors closed, everybody started banging on the windows, calling him shit drawers. That's when he gave us all the finger with both hands. We got to Hillcrest before Casey, who had to teach his last class. In the locker room, Preston was trying not to smile too much about starting, but everyone was busy putting a battery in his back, telling him that he was the new white in black and white. I didn't know how hard to go into the warm-ups. I never had to get loose and sit back down before. Marcus leaned over my shoulder to the back of the layer line and said, "Coach is just playing it straight. There are rules for everything, and everybody's got to pay some kind of price." Casey got there about 10 minutes before we started. He huddled us up at our bench and said that he wanted to go into the playoffs off of a strong last game in the regular season. Hillcrest had a decent squad, but we beat them by 15 points at our gym almost a month back. That was right after me and Marcus pulled our first stick-up. I went into that game on a real high and scored close to 30 points. Now I was stuck on the bench with the whole world hanging over my head. The only thing I could say had been going for me were the scholarship to St. John's and Marcus keeping quiet. On the opening tip-off, two kids collided and the ball went rolling free. Marcus tracked it down and found Preston standing alone under the bench for an easy score. Like everybody else on the bench, I clapped for them. A minute or two into the game, I saw my dad and his boss walk into the gym. They sat down in the second row of the stands, on the other side of the court. My dad kept looking at me until he knew for sure that I saw him. All through the first quarter, I kept an eye on the clock ticking down. I was waiting for Casey to call my name. Every time he turned in my direction to follow the game, I thought he was going to put me in the game. We were ahead 12-10 when the Hillcrest coach called a timeout with 3:22 left in the first quarter. I stood up while the other players from the court grabbed a seat. Everyone circled around Casey. He was talking about how the other team was trapping us in the corners. I couldn't stop looking at the sweat rolling down the face of Preston and Marcus. The game started up again. A minute later, Casey dropped a hand on my back and pushed me forward towards the scorer's table. I was down on one knee, waiting for a stop in play so I could get onto the court. For more than 2 minutes of game time, everything ran smooth and the refs didn't blow a single whistle. The ball finally kicked out of bounds with just 8 seconds left. Preston ran right past me to the bench, slapping my hand on the way. Hillcrest inbounded the ball and I chased my man across the court on defense. The buzzer sounded to end the first quarter. Everything inside of me stopped again. I missed my first couple of shots to start the second quarter, but Marcus kept working me on the ball. I finally found the soft spot in the other team's zone and got on track. My dad and his boss were clapping and calling out my name every time I scored. I had 12 points by halftime, but we were still behind by 2. In the locker room, Casey threw a fit. He said we were playing like the other team was just going to hand us the game. He challenged everyone to play harder and come together as a team. We all went back onto the court breathing fire and ready to run through a brick wall to win. All through the second half, Hillcrest had an answer for everything we did. I'd make a tough shot and somebody on their squad would do the same. We couldn't get a lead bigger than 2 or 3 points. The score was tied with just a couple of minutes to go. Then Marcus found Moses cutting wide open to the hoop. He put the rock right into his hands, but Moses couldn't squeeze it and lost the ball out of bounds. That's when everything went downhill. We were down by 1 point with less than a minute to play. Andre had me standing alone on the baseline. I had both hands out in front of me waiting to shoot the ball the second I got it, but the big man sailed the pass over my head. We didn't score for the rest of the game and lost by 5 points. Casey made us go over and shake hands with the other team. They had a look on their faces like they couldn't believe whether they really beat us. I hated that and just faked shaking hands down the line. Before we went in and changed, Casey pulled us all together. We let each other down as a team today, Casey said. It started with Eddie Russo missing practice and carried over some stupid mistakes we made on the court. You need to trust out there. Trust to give the ball up to the open man, and trust that you'll get it back when you're open. But it was all just selfish today. I couldn't believe that Casey mentioned me first. None of some of the bonehead plays our guys made. My dad was waiting at the edge of the court. When Coach finished up with the team, I walked over to him. He said that his boss was going to drive us home. He didn't have to tell me not to invite Marcus. A woman reporter who covers high school sports for the Daily News was talking with Casey. Me and Marcus had been interviewed by her lots of times. I couldn't believe that she was covering a nothing game like this. I knew that she had to ask Casey why I didn't start. I thought that maybe she wanted to talk about me choosing St. John's. There was another man with her carrying a pad and pencil, too. Coach called me and Marcus over. The other reporter introduced himself and said that he covered the city section. All the time, Casey had his arms folded in front of him and he wouldn't budge off the guy's shoulder. I understand that Eddie was arrested on Sunday on the same charge as Marcus, the reporter said quietly. I'd like to ask you both some... That's when Casey stopped him. My dad stepped in and pulled me away. His boss told the reporters that they should save any questions for my lawyer. Dad waited outside the locker room while I stuffed my street clothes into a gym bag. On my way back out, Marcus and Casey were just coming inside. I slowed up enough to see their faces. Marcus looked like he was doing all right, but Coach was staring straight ahead and wouldn't even look at me.